everyone for signing up. We think we have 59 people, something like that, signed up. So very good participation and very good interest in the CDBG program. This meeting is about how to do the neighborly application for CDBG. If you're here about something with one of the other federal programs, this might not be the right meeting for you. So if you're looking for information about signing up for ESG or for home or for HOPWA funding, this is not going to really help you. But we will be going through the neighborly process. So let's see. And Tammy, I have the capacity to share my screen now, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to do that. Let me make sure that I'm on the one that I want. Well, it keeps going down on me. Hang on a second here. Get it back up again. So Tammy is going to be putting the link to the application itself onto the plans and reports page. But for those of you that are new, let me just, when I do that, then I lose this. Okay, so share my screen, and it is this one here. Okay. And I'm going to take myself off of video just so that you don't have to look at the side of my face. So the Baltimore DHCD website is this one here. So it's dhcd.baltimorecity.gov. And anything that we want you all to know about that we're going to put on the website will go in this area here that is plans and reports. And so within, a couple of hours here, Tammy's going to get the link to the neighborly portal itself up there. But in the meantime, we'll be going through it. And let me just open it up and show you what that link is going to be. Let's see. I've got to share screen again. So I've got to stop sharing and share again. Here. Let's see. I'm usually using Teams, so please bear with me as I try to. It's not. Okay. So are you guys seeing a screen that shows it says Baltimore City Department of Housing and Community Development, and then it says sign in and register on the other side?
No, we're not.
Not seeing that yet. Okay. Let me, I can't figure out where that is. I'm not being able to share it. Are you seeing anything on my screen?
No, just your name. No.
Just my name. Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's try this. How about now?
No, not yet.
No. Still no.
Mm-hmm.
How about now?
No.
Yes, but you're not seeing the right screen.
Right. We just see the group here. Yes.
How about?
There we go. There we are.
Okay, good. Right. Okay, so what you want to log into, this is the wrong one. Let me, bear with me a minute and I'll get the right one for you. Okay, so the link that you're going to want is portal.neighborlysoftware.com Baltimore MD /participant. All right. So those are the two. That's the URL, and that's what Tammy's going to get up on that website as soon as she gets a chance. She's also, running the background of this meeting, so it might take her a while. And she's got other things she's got to get done, like all of us. So hang in there. If you're a returning person, you probably have seen this before, but if you're a new person, this is because I've got an application up here. You're seeing these two at the top because I've been fooling around with it. But what you're not going to see anything up here. You're going to see start a new application. And there are two that are mentioned as CDBG. One of them is capital. So if you're looking to do a capital project, that's the one that you want. If you're looking to do an operational project, you want the one that says operational. So you want to be sure that you're getting the right one. And we're going to walk through doing an operational. The capital is similar. It has a different budget sheet, and it has a few different questions that relate more to capital. Capital, in our meaning of that word, is if you are doing housing construction or you are doing a building rehab and you're going to use those funds to pay to get that work done. So you're probably paying a subcontractor. That's capital. If you're doing, you want to do housing rehab, but you have other money to actually pay the subcontractors, but you're looking for funding to cover your staff costs for doing rehabbing a housing unit, then that would be considered operational. So if it's going to be your staff doing work, it's probably operational, unless your staff is, licensed carpenters or whatever, whatever that would apply. So we're going to start with start an application right here. This is where I'm asking you to please put in your organization name. If you put in your first name or you put in CDBG 2023 or 2024, I guess it is, we're not going to really know who it is without looking. So I'm going to put something in here. As an organization that doesn't exist, I don't think, and we'll start the application. Please come off mute and interrupt me if you have questions about this as I'm walking my way through it. All right. So this is the first page that you would see. Here is Tanya's contact information. So if you have a problem, contact Tanya, and she will either field that question for you and tell you how you can deal with it, or she'll pass it on to somebody else that can help you. It might be me, it might be one of the other people in the office. Over here on the left is some things that you want to be aware of. So here is view the users. All right. If you are the person that's going to put in this application, we would still recommend that you add a user. There have certainly been cases where the person who put in the application left the organization, particularly through the last couple of years. And then the organization did not know that they were getting stuff from Neighborly that they needed to respond to because there was only one person there and that person was no longer looking at the emails. So none of us know what's going to befall us tomorrow. So protect your organization and put in a second user. It can be your boss. It can be somebody that you manage. It can be the person that's going to manage a particular program. But strongly recommend, very, very strongly recommend that you do that. And anybody can do that. It's quite easy. You just go up here and you put in whatever the email is for that person. And then you can add them and they're there. Okay. You'll probably have to put in, Jasper's already part of this. So you'll probably have to also then type in their name and their last name, their first and their last name. All right. But then they're there and it's good. And once that is done, you have the capacity to take them back off again if you'd like to. And we'll get to that in a couple of minutes. I don't think we can do that through this actual widget. It's farther on down. You can also print the application using this other button. So here you go. In my system, it prints it into my download file on my laptop, the city's laptop. And it comes in as a PDF. I don't think you have the option to have it come in as a Word document through that button. But with any luck, you've got either Nitro or what's the other one? Adobe, that you could translate it into a Word document. If that's helpful to you to plan out what you want to say before you actually enter it into the Neighborly format. I've already got a couple of these, so I'm not going to bother with that. And we're going to move on. So the first page, this is the one we kind of already looked at. Here's Tanya. You want to hit at the bottom of each page, you're going to see complete and continue. So you definitely want to put that. If you're not ready to move on, you can hit save and it would be there for you the next time. Oh, I forgot to mention, if you are new, when you register into Neighborly, you will have to put in a password. But Neighborly is very good about remembering what your password is if you're using the same equipment. If you're switching back and forth between equipment, of course, you're going to want to write that password down for yourself. And they have not, to my knowledge, I haven't ever had them require a third party or a third point verification, you know, like so many are right now. So it's actually a very easy system to use. So moving on. So you can see that that one's been checked because we've already said save and continue. This is the first page, contact information. The first thing that you need to do is decide whether you are a City of Baltimore agency, meaning you are part of the city's government. That would be you're one of the offices in DHCD, or you're in Rec and Parks, or you're in DPW. And in that case, we want you to check that top box. What that does is it will you'll have an application that has fewer questions and uploads simply because you're part of the system and we already know a lot of the stuff. If you're not part of the city, then please check nonprofit. And if you saw down here at the bottom, something popped up, do that again, look below 14, there we go. Because the city, we already know that Brandon Scott is our CEO, so we don't really need our city agencies to put that in. We need your CEO information. Now, anybody who is provides the email on this page, so there is a primary contact, there's a backup contact with an email, and then there's the CEO, okay, with an email. And all three of these names, Tanya Lewis will be adding to our master list for the CDBG program. So they'll all be on that list and we'll continue to receive information about the CDBG program until they ask us to take them back off again or their email goes dead. This is all stuff that you should know, with the possible exception of the UEI. For those of you that in the past have been with us You had a DUNS number. HUD has moved on to this new UEI number. And if you click on that link, it's going to take you to this page. And going through here, I really don't want to do that right now, but going through here, you can sign up for a DUNS number. But that's, that's what that little link will do for you. So if you do not have a unique entity identification number, a UEI, that's what you're going to have to do to get one. Any questions about this page?
If we've already applied in the past, will this automatically fill the?
Good question. And unfortunately, I think the answer is no. To my knowledge, Neighborly does not have the capacity right now to pull data from one application year to the next. However, you can always go into your previous applications and pull the data out yourself. But it is copy paste doing it that way. And that would be a good thing for them to work on improving. But to my knowledge, that's not possible yet.
If you hit complete and continue, can you come back later and make changes to that page?
No. Once you've hit complete and continue, I think that you're done with that page. I'm not aware that you can come back. If you find that you really do need to go back, what you can do is call Tanya or email her and ask her to open this back up again. It needs to be an administrator, and which she is one of, or I can do it, or I think just about everybody on our staff can do it. So you can call your, one of your monitors, and they can open it back up for you. But it does take that extra step. I think once you've hit complete and continue, then you move on. Anything else?
If you already have a DUNS number or you've used that number previously, do you still have to get a UEI number?
Yes, you do. Unfortunately, it is in place of the DUNS number. Yeah. And, it's just the way the feds have decided to go. So. Anything else?
When does it say on the website when the applications are open to start filing them?
Yes, this application is open now. In fact, there were 2 or 3 that had started this morning. So it's not on the website yet, but it's in her inbox and she will get to it today.
It's on the website.
You got it done. Okay. Yeah. So it's there. Should be on the same page, kind of at the bottom of it, because it's the latest thing that we've put in there.
And what is the deadline for the application?
The deadline, that's a good question. I think we've said that it is, I'm thinking it's February 5th.
February 5th is the date that you announced at last week's training.
Yep. That's what I think.
I think
that is the deadline.
PowerPoint from the presentation last week is also on that same page for anyone who wasn't there with the information you shared last week.
Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, this is Melanie. Just wanted to chime in.
Yeah.
I think in the past, when I hit complete and continue, if you have not submitted the full application yet, you are able to resubmit it. But I wanted to see if you can just try it to see if that still works.
So yeah, let me just stick in something here. What did I say? Baltimore is great, huh? Stick something in there and then complete and continue. See it, and it's not going to let me complete and continue because I have so much that's not done. So I'm not sure I can check that.
Yeah, no worries, but it does. I think it does work.
Yeah. See, and there, I can reopen it. So Melanie, I think you're absolutely right. I do think you're right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Organizational information. This is where you can describe what your organization is, what you've been able to do in the past, the abilities that your staff has. The CDBG program is a reimbursement program, so there's no funding up front. So, you know, we ask a couple of questions, but we are asking in this one specifically about your experience to comply with the grant reporting requirements. And some of that is the quarterly reports, but also, you know, if you are sure that you can handle using the funding on a reimbursement basis. You can definitely put that in here. I think there's another question coming up on that too.
Susan, in the past, there's been a lot of issues of the length of time for reimbursement. Do you have any sense of what that is now?
Oh, we're still working on getting it improved. And I know Carol's team has been working pretty hard on it. The requests for reimbursements come through Neighborly. It's probably a good idea if if you've submitted one and it's been more than a week, you might want to contact your contract officer and make sure that they're aware that it's there and see what they tell you. Carol, do you have anything you want to say on that issue?
Yeah, that's correct. If you do not receive a response in a reasonable time, and make sure you please CC me, Carol Amunzi at baltimorecity.gov, so I'm aware, and we will make sure. But the Workday issues are improving. There's been some issues in getting draws processed through Workday, but they're steadily improving. So we think it'll be a much more efficient process this time around.
The last question is only for those people that are providing housing counseling. If you hit yes, let's do that. I'm not sure. I think it's just telling you that if yes, you need to submit your letter and your certificate of certification of HUD approval for housing counseling. We're not providing funding for agencies that are not at this point approved by HUD. Moving on, financial capacity. This is, hang on a minute. Proceed anyways, it's okay. So again, here at the top, you're going to have to click because again, city agencies, the financial capacity questions are different simply because they're part of the city of Baltimore. So we have a much better understanding of what the capacity of our peer organizations is. But if you click on nonprofit organization, you get more questions just to make sure that you've answered these questions and that we believe that it is a good fit for your organization. The CDBG program does have a lot of hoops that need to be jumped through. So for emerging and new organizations, we do not recommend CDBG as a funding source just because it's very, it's onerous. There's a lot of rigmarole that needs to be done, and there are easier funding sources out there. Yes, you have to look for them and apply for them, but they are out there. So, so the first question, has your organization ever had grant funding revoked or suspended? Yes or no? Has the organization ever been cited for misuse of federal, state, or local funds? and been required to repay them, and yes or no, and then describe your organization's fiscal management, record keeping, and accounting procedures. So this is one, and if you need more space on these, you can make them bigger. It looks like you can go longer on this one, but yeah. Please type in here some information about how your organization manages your fiscal responsibilities, so that we have some sense of whether we think that your organization is equipped to do what's required. Here is the question on reimbursement, and we need to know your capacity to operate under the system where you have to you're fronting the money yourself, and then you ask for reimbursement and you get reimbursed through the city. And if that's going to be a very heavy lift for you, particularly if you're a new organization, it can be. It just adds time before you can actually push out your payroll or pay your suppliers or whatever you're using the funding for. There's a question on payroll taxes and workers' compensation payments, and if you're not current, we want to know if there's a plan in place, an agreement in place to address that liability. And then again, complete and continue or save, either one. Moving on, next is the contracting requirements. So to get the CDBG funding, there are several contracting requirements. Carol, please interrupt me and correct me if I get anything wrong or if you have anything to add. First off, can the organization either obtain or does it already have general contracting, commercial general liability insurance of $1 million that covers, accidents that happen on site? Do you have professional liability, errors and emissions insurance of $1 million, or can you get it? Does the organization have or can it obtain fire insurance of at least the amount of the grant? Does the organization have or can it obtain commercial crime coverage insurance? And has the organization ever been or is currently debarred or suspended from a federal program? Let's see, this one down here is in red. So persons are you're responsible for the day-to-day management of the CDBG funded, and this is for capital projects. I'm not sure this is on the right page now that I'm looking at it. Carol, does this look like something that we'd also require for operating?
The insurance, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. Good.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So you need to these three blue hyperlinks down here at the bottom. You're going to have to certify that you have read them and that you understand them, and that you will be working within the certifications that they put forth. One of them is the obligation to provide language assistance to people with limited English proficiency. We do have a couple of our forms are translated into Spanish at this point. Not necessarily all of them, but some of them are. So those will be available to you. Also, the audit requirements. This 2 CFR Part 200 is the federal legislation that governs the CDBG programs. So you'll see that more. We seem to be missing a number or a letter there. So we'll have to get that corrected. But that you'll need to look at. Probably the link. Let's see if the link goes to the right place. Yeah, the link at least is going to the right place.
Right.
So here is, yeah, so here is the audit
requirements.
So the link itself should get you where you need to go. And then the local hiring and employing Baltimore executive order, that needs to be completed and needs to be adhered to. Next up is personnel. Again, you'll need to check whether you're the City of Baltimore or whether you're a nonprofit organization. If you're a nonprofit organization, this is what you get. Do you have a written personnel policy? Does the organization have an affirmative action plan? And does the organization have a grievance procedure? And then you'll need to describe the staff, the volunteers, and consultants who are going to be involved in carrying out these activities. There is also a sheet, a complete list of staff to be funded is going to be uploaded in section I. So you don't, in this one, you can give information that's a little bit more descriptive, perhaps. In the list, I think it's more of a list of who is this person, you know, and what is their job responsibility, and that kind of information.
If you don't meet E1, 2, and 3, does that automatically disqualify you if all three of those, you don't have one of those?
Carol, what do you think?
I would say no, but we are waiting the application, so it may affect the weight of the application.
Yeah, yeah. So it doesn't automatically disqualify you, but you would lose points, is what that means. Another way to say that. Okay, then F is where we really want you to talk about the program itself. And to look at it, it doesn't look like it's all that much, but you can add rows, okay? So you want to do that. And in here, we don't need a complete breakout. So if you're planning on a youth program, tell us that it's a youth program. And, you know, in here you can put providing summer school and after school programming for low-mod income youth who live in the Druid Heights neighborhood area, and who and you know, these programs are going to include STEAM and youth sports and maybe youth employment training, and the number to be served. We don't really need you to break out into all these layers. You know, we're going to provide youth sports. We're going to provide, we're going to do this. We're going to go to the zoo in the summer program. We don't need that level of detail, but we do need to know what the activities are that you're going to be applying for. And we need to know how many people you estimate you're going to be able to serve with the amount that you're requesting. And you would put in the amount that you're going to request there. And we also need to know what other funds you're going to be applying to that activity. Keep in mind that CDBG is not intended to be your sole source of funding. It is intended to be a part of your funding. We would like it to be roughly around 30%. We're not inclined to fund things that are 100% funded by CDBG funding. It's just not, you know, we have a lot of organizations in Baltimore that could benefit from CDBG funding, and we really can't put all of our apples in just a couple of organizations, to mix my metaphors there. This is pretty much your main office address. If you're providing services at a number of places, there are, down here, activities address. So here is where you would just put in the other addresses. There's also a form, I believe, where you need to put in the, that you'll need to fill in to give us the specific addresses of where you're providing services. Basic general geography. So, you know, this can be, you know, Upton neighborhood. It could be Southwest Baltimore, Southeast Baltimore, whatever you feel is most appropriate. Doesn't have to be more than a couple of words, probably. And then describe the need for your proposed activity. So here again, you can list what you think. What is the reason that you want to provide this activity? You know that there are kids that aren't that don't have access to an after-school program.
Susan, you have a raised hand. I don't know if you'd like to go ahead and ask your question now.
Hi, this is Marita Goodman. Actually, it was about a couple pages back, so I don't know if you want to just wait till the end or go back. But it was those questions. I didn't hear all of it when it was the page where they had those 3 questions at the end, where the blueprint was, because I know I was a little confused with that last time.
Maybe this one, contracting. Is this the one?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I wasn't sure. Okay. They're saying that the person responsible for the day-to-day management will be required to certify in this application they have reviewed and understand that the project must comply. So are we supposed to provide some kind of proof of this, or just say we understand that we have to comply?
Right.
I did last year.
When we get down to the required documents page.
Oh, okay.
I think it is one of these. It's either here or it's in the next page. I think it's on this one here, cross-cutting federal and city requirements certification form. So it's going to be one of the forms that you are going to have to sign electronically. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I think this is where we were at. Okay. We've asked you to provide a list of your partners, assuming that you do have some partner organizations that you're working with. If you don't, that's fine. Don't worry about it. But we do want to know who the partners are. So if you are, particularly if you're one of the, you might say umbrella organizations like Southeast CDC or the Central Baltimore or Southwest, we want to know who you're giving. There have been some instances where CDBG funding has been then subbed out to yet another entity, and we need to know who that is. And if you have other partners, we would like to know who those are. Partners can be other funding agencies, or they could be groups that you work with. Say, back to the example of a youth program, maybe you have an art teacher from Creative Alliance who comes in, once a month and does a special art project, with the youth. And so that would be an example of a partner. Here are the options. Affordable housing, homeless services. We have a couple of groups that are providing homeless services. Most of the homeless services are provided by the ESG funds, which is not this, but we do have a couple. Neighborhood revitalization, that can be a lot of different things. It's kind of a catch-all, but it certainly could be demolition. It could be housing redevelopment. There's a Venn diagram between neighborhood revitalization and public facilities and improvements, because public facilities improvements can also be neighborhood revitalization. So do your best one way or the other on that. Public facilities improvements are things like you are, let's see, a couple of the ones that we've used most recently would be the spruce up projects that are going around town. So maybe you're going to improve a park, or you're going to install a mural somewhere, or some other art installation. You have identified that you need to do traffic calming, and you can't seem to figure out how to do it through the city, so you need funding for the neighborhood association to do it themselves. Things that would be, if you're something like a Main Street and you want to do facade improvements, that's possible that it would fall under here. I think, you know, so it's kind of a broad thing, but it's basically anything that's really a public facility, not necessarily city owned, but something that the public sees as being available to them. And it tends to be, so this is not capital funding. This is funding for your staff to be able to utilize some other source of capital funding to get this work done. So it can include things like, we need to do a neighborhood survey to find out whether the neighborhood is, supports this, or whether this is something they want, or to find out what in fact they want. So that could be part of this. It's possible that could be something else, but I would check that one. If you were looking to do neighborhood surveys or public participation processes. Economic development, so that's job creation, that's the Main Street programs, any kind of economic development as opposed to neighborhood or housing development. Housing for non-homeless special needs, so that's working with typically adults, but not necessarily, who have disabilities but are not homeless at that point in time. It can be to prevent them from being homeless, but typically it's not meant to serve homeless people. Yeah. And then public services. So public services is that broad category that includes things like youth programs, housing counseling programs, legal services, public health programs, and then general walk-in type situations where you have a front desk in your facility and a person comes in and wants to know, how do I sign up for Social Security? And you're going to search through the website and find them the link or something, so that's general public services. So there's a whole bunch of options that would fall under public services. So just know that that's the big one if that's sounds like what you're doing. If it's other, that's fine. Check it, and we'll be looking up here to see what your activities are to be sure that we understand how that's an other. Yeah. Questions on this page?
If we have a building in a commercial space that we are going to acquire and we're going to use it, say mixed use, part for retail, part for community functions, would that qualify? And if so, would it be neighborhood revitalization, economic development?
Yeah. It would definitely qualify again as operating for your staff to make it happen. This is not capital funding that we're talking about right now. But in terms of whether it's neighborhood revitalization or economic development, yes, it's kind of all of that. I think that I'd probably go with neighborhood revitalization. That's the bigger picture thing, especially since you're going to have a neighborhood center in there. So it's not going to be 100% economic development. And of course, also with economic development, it's kind of somebody might say they're coming in, but the building isn't ready. And by the time the building is ready, you might need to find another tenant, if you don't really have the bird in hand, then I think I'd go with neighborhood revitalization on that one. Harold, do you have a different take on that?
No, because it is a combination of several activities, so I would take the
Okay.
broader one. I agree.
Yeah.
And we'll break that down.
Okay.
Mhm.
Anything else? Any other questions?
Yes, this is Marita again.
Uh-huh.
I put in the chat, but what
Yeah,
about?
I'm not really able to manage all of that. So go ahead and
Not a
tell me.
problem.
Yeah.
Not a problem. I also was wondering if you were the staff costs, but activities, I should say as well, but community outreach and what they used to call public information, where you're, promoting your services or activities in the community, outreach to the community, that kind of thing. Would that be under public services or other?
Yes. Yes. We're trying to kind of rejigger how we're divvying out those funds in terms of the activities. And so what we're doing is if you're doing public outreach, depending upon your programs, but if we're funding you to do, remind me of what your programs are again.
To me? Community, housing counseling, and then
Yes.
we also do community outreach in terms of providing information to the newsletter or website.
Yeah.
Kind of promoting other communities,
Okay. Yeah. Right.
educating the community about our services and that kind of
Yeah.
thing, and other
So,
services.
yeah. So I think it's a public service, and it would fold in with your housing counseling because you're letting the public know about your housing counseling services. And yeah, you're putting some other stuff in there too. But
Right. Yeah, like other housing services that we do may not be counseling, but other. Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to know.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think in the past I just put a lot of that in affordable. I didn't know what to do. So
I know, and it's yeah.
okay, that's good.
There's
I just
probably
wanted
no wrong answer, but I think the best answer would be to fold that in with being a function of providing the housing counseling, because if people don't know about it, then they're not gonna come and take advantage of it. So
Okay, thank you.
yeah. Okay, operating budget. Carol's going to cover this, but I'll just walk you through this page. So you must use the attached budget template. Please do not use budgets from last year or previous years, or send in budgets from some other source. If you do, we're not going to score the application and it wouldn't be considered for funding. So you must use the required budget. It has to be complete and it has to be accurate. If it's incomplete or has obvious mistakes in it, again, it won't be scored or funded. So check your work. And changes to that budget after the application is submitted are not going to be considered this coming year. So make sure that what you're asking for is really what you are wanting. You can find the budget form right here in this upload file. Okay. So again, it will give you, let's see. It's worked for me the other day, but it's not giving me a name. So that's interesting. We're going to call it Baltimore. Hope this works. What did I call this organization? Baltimore's great. Budget. Files not found. Okay, so we have another problem here with this. Let's check on that. I thought this one worked for me the other day.
You also misspelled Baltimore.
Yeah, and
That's, I'm not worried about that. Yeah. I'm more worried that we don't have the file. Let me find the file though in another source, and Carol can walk you through it. Let's see. Source and use. It's this one here. All right, Carol,
Okay.
take it away. Are you
Yeah.
seeing this? Yeah.
I am seeing that. I actually asked one of the contract officers to do it since they're the first line.
Okay, great.
They're going to be meeting with whoever is funded.
Yep.
So Michelle Chittum is going to walk through this.
Okay.
Michelle, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Here I am.
Oh.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Okay, so we're gonna start with I think we start with the A1, if I think that's what I want to do first.
Yeah. So
Yep,
this
that's right.
budget, where
I'm
it's
trying
got
to scroll and I can't.
5 tabs on the bottom. So just because you've done the one doesn't mean you're done. You should have 5 tabs.
Right. Well, let's go into the instructions. Can you do the instructions, please,
Sure.
Susan?
Yeah.
And I don't.
There we
Here
go.
we go. Here we go. All right. So the instructions here are basically everything you need to know to do this budget. And particularly when it comes to tabs A1, A2, and then if you're adding an MTDC, you will have to add an additional tab to do that indirect. But just to briefly go through this, the budget is quite a bit self-explanatory, actually. And you start off with, I would say, tab A2, because tab A2.
Do you want me to go there now?
Yes, please go ahead. Yeah, real quickly. Tab A2 is going to break down your staffing. You see the position, the staff person's name, and percent of time, or the FTE. And then you'll put in the annual salary, the percent of time to CDBG, the months of your activity, and of course, the total cost. Along with that would be you have the subtotal, that personnel subtotal at the bottom there on line number 25. And you add in your other fringe benefits, and then there's your total personnel costs. And that's why I said this is quite, self-explanatory. And then, of course, in the budget narrative, anything you need to tell us regarding your staffing, percent of time, or whatever it is that they're doing, you want to add that information here in the budget narrative. If you can skip over to.
Should we just talk a little bit about what if they are anticipating hiring?
Well, most often, if you anticipate hiring, hey, everybody starting at 50 will be a July 1 start date. Anybody going
you
into
broke
this
up,
budget,
Michelle. You might want to repeat that.
we're starting in July 1 is your new start date for CD50.
Okay.
So this position column, again, BC, would include everybody that's going to be on your budget or in the CDBG budget for starting July 1. If you have a vacancy, you can put a to be determined in there, but we expect by the time we get to you to write your contract, you should have filled that position and have a name to put in that place, so that we will be turning in a budget that has all the slots and all the positions filled. And if something also happens that you don't have anybody, then we will probably, depending on the point of time we're in, you may not be able to include that person into that budget. Our audit department wants to see everybody that's going to be on that budget within 6 months. of the start date. So if you decided you're going to be beyond that 6-month period, don't put them in. It won't be funded, or it should not be funded.
Okay.
Okay, so by the time you get the total personnel costs down on line 29, I guess that is 29.
Yep.
You would move that number over to A1.
Yep.
So here we go. On A1, and you know what, I failed to talk about the top of the page too.
Yeah.
Organization name, your organization address, per period of performance is crucial, but starting in 50, everybody's July 1 through June 30.
Yeah.
That is good. Your target service area was something we needed to know too. So wherever you are in the city of Baltimore, it would be your target area, if you can get that in there. And then your council district, if applicable. Well, we're all in Baltimore City, so where there is a council district, we also need that information.
Yeah. Every now and then a council person will ask.
Yes.
And it's now required on the board memos, so we need that.
We need that, yes.
That's why we need it, so that we won't
And then
have
the
to.
type of activity. So I don't see that little drop-down box anymore. That was on the other budget. So.
Yeah, that box was removed because it was confusing people. They felt like those were the only options that they had. So whatever activities you put in your application that you checked off that that's the service you're providing, that would be the activity. You can just type that there.
Right.
Wonderful.
And if you're doing more than one, just
you
put a
can
comma
expand
between.
it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now moving along down to line 19, you're going to put that personnel cost that came from A2 up there in that box.
Yeah. And right now, let's see. So it is summing up these. So you're going to want to put in that box. It's this number or this one?
The total personnel cost on line 29.
So line 29.
Fringes.
Yeah.
And I see it's broken up here too. They have personnel and fringes.
Wow.
So you can
So it actually, it
Yeah.
is this one. So it's line
That
25 is what you want to put.
25 and
plus your fringes.
Yep. And then you'll put the fringe, which is
Now the lines that follow that
yeah.
are your line items.
Yeah.
Now your line items, you know, if there's any question about what line items you should be charging CDBG, you go back to your 2 CFR Part 200, the Uniform Grant Guidance, and you'll look for your eligible cost. And based on those costs, those are the eligible costs to put into these lines. Now, we all had something different. Some people have supplies, some people have travel, some people have whatever. And that's where you're going to find those line items in that grant guidance to know that it is an eligible cost to CDBG. If it's not there, it's not eligible.
Yeah.
And also I point out it is only direct cost in those line items.
Okay.
Just direct cost.
Yep.
Direct costs, yes. So then you have your total direct costs. If you have consultants, they got to be procured. You must follow the federal procurement guidelines when choosing your consultant. So if I remember correctly, you have to at least, I want to say interview or see 3 participants or 3 consultants, and before you decide on which one you want. And then I guess the monitors will check that you did that to be in compliance with the procurement guidelines.
It depends on how much, right?
Yeah. Okay.
But once it's on the budget, when we meet with you to discuss your budget for the contract, we can go into more detail on that.
Into more detail, okay. And then your next line is your total indirect cost or your modified total direct cost. Well, that's your indirect. Your indirect will consist of, if you need it, what the modified total direct will be, of course, a maximum of 10% of your contract amount. And those things that you can put into it are all direct salaries and wages, applicable fringe benefits. You can add materials and supplies, some services, travel, and performance of a sub-award under the award. So that means that your consultants can go in there, but they must be no more than $25,000. The items that you cannot put into MTDC would be the equipment, the capital expenditures, charges for patient care, rental costs, tuition, scholarships and fellowships, participant support costs, and the portion of that sub-award in excess of that $25,000. Now, all of this information I just read to you, which should be found in your instructions. So if you follow your instructions, then, and scroll down a little bit.
Yeah.
There we go. There it is.
Yeah.
Starting on line 32. Those are your instructions. If you follow these instructions, you should be good with putting in your MTDC costs.
Yeah. And here's the things that are excluded.
It's exclusions, yes.
Yeah.
That's where the information is.
Okay.
Now, if you should have a federal indirect cost rate, then we would use that instead of the MTDC or the indirect cost. But you got to let us know that it is that you do have a federal indirect cost rate. What the rate is, it must go there too. What you're going to be using for your federal indirect cost rate, and that's we'll use that long. Anything up, use that at any time that you have one, but you need to show us that you have one too. So at some point in time, you may be asked to present the documentation to support that federal indirect cost rate.
All right, and I can add the caveat is if you do have one or have ever had one, even if it's no longer in use, you cannot do a modified total direct cost. You cannot use it. You have to go back and do ICAP using that federal cost rate.
And of course, after all of that is said and done, your total cost should be equivalent to your allocation from CDBG.
To your request. Mm-hmm.
Now, over in the modified budget column, if you have to do a budget modification, this is the column we suggest that you use to do your modification. So we can see what you have and what you want. And then you have your other funding sources. Your other funding sources represent all the other funding that you're getting to help support your programs. Not CDBG, but you may have state funds. You may have foundations. You may have some local partners that are giving you money. Those are your other funding sources. And of course, the total for CDBG will go into your total line. Or your total for all the lines go across, and that's what they all total up. Everything total. In column G, everything totals there. The CDBG costs will be in column D, line 33. Yeah. And of course, there's another narrative at the bottom if you need to explain anything that we need to, that you need to tell us that will help us with your budget. Now, this is part A. These are the numbers these numbers plus the numbers for your personnel costs will appear on your invoice. So we will take those numbers and create your invoice. And then we will put in part B for you. Part B will be represented from your, from the plan. Whatever the plan says your part B is, those are your activities are. Part B are your numbers to your activities, which part B should match part A at all times.
Yeah. And if you're new to this, don't worry about what we mean by part B.
We'll discuss it later.
We'll get to it.
Right.
Yes, we'll discuss it later. But those are the numbers that you'll find in the plan that are segmented out for your particular activity.
Yeah.
Let's see, is there anything else I need to say about it? Oh, the work plan. Yes.
Yep.
The work plan is what you're going to tell us what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Starting July 1 through June 30, you're going to describe your services, your outcomes, which would be, number of people served or what you're going to do, participants, And you have your start date, your completion date, and the percentage of the budget. Later on, we'll come back and talk about this when we have our negotiations, because you're gonna have to break these down. Your outcomes, you'll need to break them down to quarters. They'll become the schedule of completion in your quarters.
In the
And then,
contract.
you know, from there comes the quarterly reports.
Right. So
Yes, sir.
these two columns here, though, C and D,
Description of your
should
services.
definitely mirror what's in section F of the main application,
That's correct.
where you've listed out your activities. Service and activities means the same thing.
And then your outcomes.
Yes, and the outcomes is the number of people you're going to serve, the number of houses you're going to create, the number of businesses, whatever your special, whatever your project does, you know, what's the outcome? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
All right, and down
yeah, and then the start date and the complete date then going forward, should these be any different than July 1st through June 30th?
It's always going to be July 1 through June 30.
Okay, all right.
For everybody.
It can be a little different only in that, let's say you have classes and you want to break that down. I have one class that starts at this period and ends in this, but it's all within that fiscal year though. So
Okay.
Yeah,
your
we've been
classes.
using the fiscal year for the start and completion date. We
Mhm.
did the breakdown for all of that in the schedule completion when we had the schedule completion time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then at the bottom again is another description of any information that you need to tell us to describe what you put up at the top. That would help us understand what you're doing and how you your services and the number of participants that you're serving. The leverage tab is your sources. These are your funding sources. These are the funding sources that you're getting other than CDBG, which you'll put into your columns.
Yeah.
Or add on anybody or anybody else that you're getting any funds from that will assist you in providing the services that you're giving us for CDBG.
Yeah. Please give us as much information. You know, it doesn't have to be a lot, but rather than just calling it federal funding, you know, if you're getting some funds from maybe you're doing some kind of environmental project, and so you're getting some funds from the EPA, or you're getting funding from the Small Business Association or something like that. If it's state funds, again, try to identify what the agency is. And then down here is where anything that is either corporate funding or foundation fund. And then we consider donations to be like a gift from a private individual. If you're charging a fee, that would go in this column. Anything else, if you're going to be drawing from your reserves at all, that would be an other, I think. Yeah. And then there's a space down. Go ahead.
And in-kind is not a source of funds. Because sometimes people put in-kind in there and it's not a source, it's not money.
Right. It's not money. It is in kind. And it is generally, it's the number of hours worked.
Right.
It can also be donated property. It's not very common, but it could be like somebody is giving you a truck. You know?
Right. Non-monetary resources to support carrying out the activities.
Yeah.
Right.
Non-labor. Yeah. The labor itself, there is a federal rate, and I don't remember exactly what it is because I haven't actually looked it up lately, but it somewhere around the area of like $24 an hour is like just general. So you can Google search for that federal in-kind volunteer rate, something along those lines. And you should be able to get a rate if you're not sure. If the person has a particular skill, maybe you have a volunteer architect, go ahead and ask them what their rate is and put that in. These numbers of what else the money that is raised or the in-kind that is raised to support the programs that the CDBG program is funding are very useful for HUD to be able to say to Congress, were it not for the CDBG funding, all of this other funding would not necessarily be available in this community. So, you know, that the CDBG funding is gap funding, but without CDBG funding, you know, this would be a much, CDBG actually helps to raise all this extra money. So it isn't just, you know, the 21 million that we get here in the city of Baltimore. It's actually bringing in millions of dollars in the long run to the city of Baltimore by just having the CDBG available.
All right.
Anything else? Questions or comments? Go ahead.
I have a question. I think this was back on the first page. I think
A1?
budget A1.
Okay.
Yeah, they went, yeah, where you have council district and you say that's now required. What if your service is citywide? You just
You
want
can
to
put that there.
citywide?
You can just say
The
citywide.
citywide up there.
Okay.
Yeah. Good question. Yeah.
And then the target service area, same thing?
Yep.
Yes, for housing counseling, yes, it would be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
But we do have some other groups that are specific to particular areas.
Right.
So that's the ones we need to have their council districts.
Okay. I mean, because ours would actually kind of be both because we do community focus things. So I just wanted to make sure I could put both down.
You can.
Okay. Okay.
When it says,
Hello, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Ayers, go ahead.
Yes, let's say I have a property already that's vacant with mixed use. Will I be able to get funding for that if I'm not a nonprofit? I'm just a regular owner?
No.
No. CDBG funding is for nonprofit organizations.
I see.
You must have a 501c3.
Yep. You must have a 501c3.
I see.
The home program, if it's housing that you're wanting help to do, the home program might be able to help you. They tend to work with developers, and theirs tends to be like, we're going to develop an apartment building that's got, 20 units in it or something. So they tend to be the bigger ones. If you're looking for funding to support more of a economic development project as a private entity that's not a nonprofit, as a for-profit entity, I would look to what's the term I'm trying to come up with? The Baltimore Development Corporation.
Yes.
Yeah, because they have funding sources through the SBA and the state programs. So that would be the place to go. But in terms of CDBG, probably not going to work out for.
Yeah, I was wondering. I wasn't sure because, like I said, I wanted to do affordable housing, and it's a vacant building, but it's a mixed use, and I wanted to fix it up and do some retail down at the bottom. Not sure right now what I wanted to put in at the retail, but I was just trying to get different ideas.
Right. Yeah. And definitely if you either have a 501c3 or there's a partnering organization that would be willing to be the applicant,
Yes.
Then
But it
you would
sounds like
be,
more capital.
Say that
pardon
again?
me?
It sounds like a capital project.
Yeah, it does. But what I'm saying is, there's a potential for a nonprofit organization to get the operating funding to help you manage it,
Yes.
manage the reconstruction, or to just go the route of capital funding. But again, it would have to run through that 501c3. So you'd have to have a good agreement with them.
Okay, so I just have to look for a nonprofit organization that would probably partner, right? Right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that would be my first go-to. There's a bunch of nonprofits around that are neighborhood based. There are also the umbrella organizations like Southwest Partnership and Southeast CDC and Central Baltimore Partnership. That
Harbell.
Say again.
Harbell was another one.
Harbell is
In the Northeast,
umbrella.
yes.
Okay. Yep. Uh-huh. And
So-
they can, they might either work with you directly or they can help you find organizations in that neck of the woods.
Okay, so if I put my email in the chat, is it something that maybe someone can send to my email, some of these organizations?
Yeah.
All right. Thank
Yeah.
you very
It
much.
it might be a couple of days before we get to it, but yeah.
No, I understand. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a question on funding sources where it says approved, pending, intended. Do you need to state which of those categories it's in? I didn't, the page isn't there, so it wasn't clear.
The leverage.
The leverage page.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, I see. So you have to write in, you have to write one of those in there.
Type
Okay.
that in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. If you have it in hand, then you've already gotten the award letter, then it's approved. If it's pending, that means you've submitted an application, but you haven't heard back from them yet. And if it's intended, then you have not yet submitted the application, but it's your intention to do that. And, that we look at that, and to be honest with you, we definitely would count the approved sources. Whether we would count the pending or not is kind of, we probably would make a judgment on whether we think that's really going to happen. The intended, it's nice to know, but we're not, in terms of our scoring of your applications, just because you say you are planning on applying for something doesn't mean that we can count it. We really can't. So there you go. Yeah. Other questions on this? Okay, let's go back to the neighborly application. So that's G. Okay, and you'll upload it over here by clicking on this. And I guess that's why I was having trouble, because that's
Yeah,
the
I think so.
upload. Now that's why I was having trouble.
Yeah.
So you want your budget form, once you've got it completed, and it's got to be available in here somewhere. I'm not sure. It's probably under required documents or something.
Right.
But you want it in a place where you can find it on your computer. I use my download folder a lot. So, and then you'll just, like any other kind of upload, grab it, hit open, it'll make itself available through this. Okay. So pretty simple. The next sheet in this application is the conflict of interest. Have any of your members or any of your staff or members of your board of directors or governing body within 1 year been a city employee or consultant or a member of the city council? All this information does not discount your application at all. We just need to know it. And typically, if they're a city employee or a member of city council, every year we have to submit our conflict of interest questionnaire. So you want to make sure that that person knows that they need to add this CDBG activity to that, so that it's clear across the board that they've got a dual role. Same goes for somebody that is going to be a subcontractor or an affiliate. What is their role with the city of Baltimore? And then members of the applicant staff or members of that direction that are family members or business partners for us with a city employee. So, you know, if your husband works for the city and you're the CEO of this, you probably want to make sure that that's clear so that it would show up on both sides of the equation for the ethics people to be looking at and keep us all above board. Okay, required documents. So again, here you're going to have to click, because if you're a nonprofit organization, you have a whole bunch more than the city of Baltimore people have to have. So, but as a nonprofit, we need to see your articles of incorporation and your bylaws. Your board of authors needs to authorize submitting this application. So put that on your next board meeting agenda, get it done, that they approve that you're filing an application for CDBG funding. If you're doing activities in multiple locations, this third one is the one that you would want to fill out. It would relate back to Section F, which is where you've talked about your activities. So please do that. The cross-cutting federal certification form has to be completed. That's those 3 blue highlighted hyperlinks on, I think it's in contracting requirements. Certificate of good standing from the state of Maryland, your federal tax determination letter, that's the one that tells that you are 501c3. If you're a HUD counseling agency, we need your certificate and work plan. We need a list of your current board of directors and your officers. We need your most recent 990, your most recent financial statement or audit. I don't know of any other documents, but it's possible that there's another document that you feel like we should need to see. And your primary staff list. And then if you're doing public improvements such as greening projects, the spruce up projects, commercial revitalization, we need a screenshot of Code Map. And there is going to be a training on January 2nd on Code Map that you can sign up for. And if you don't have that already and you want to put it in your chat, I'll look for it and make sure that you get an invitation to the Code Map training. So we need to see screenshots of those areas just to be able to determine that for sure the activity is occurring in an area that is CDBG eligible. You'll hit complete and save once you get all those uploaded. Again, over here is where you would upload them. And then the submit button, not going to let me go farther. Come on. Dang. Okay. Let's see if it'll, it's not going to let me, but the submit button is basically you're going to electronically sign the document and submit it. And once you do that, then, as we said before, if you have a problem with it and you want to get back into it, you'll need to let me know or somebody else on my staff, and we can reopen it. But we wouldn't do that unless we heard from you. So Just so you know. Yeah. The deadline, as we said, is February 5th. And that's also on the DHCD website. Any other questions at this point that we can work through? We're pretty much out of time, but if anybody does have one last question.
I have a quick question. The good standing, certificate of good standing.
Yes.
You need the actual certificate, or can you do a screenshot?
A screenshot of it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I think, right, Carol?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? Okay, so we did not cover the capital application. It's very similar. If you'd like a walkthrough of it, let me know. I'm happy to do that come January. I am going to be off next week, so it won't happen next week. I know that. We're getting done what we can get done given the lateness of the year. Anything else from anyone before we adjourn?
Will you be
So if
offering an overview of the reporting portion of Neighborly?
Thank you for saying that.
Or
Yes,
your
in
review?
fact, I am planning on doing another workshop. We've got at least one scheduled now, and there will be another workshop on the reporting functions. And I'll do that in January. I know that people are for 49, which is the year that we're currently in. People need to get those in. But we'll be doing a workshop on the reporting in January. So put that in the chat for me too, so I can make sure that we'll send it out to everybody, but we just want to make sure that we have you covered. And I don't have a date yet for it, but it's on my to-do list next week when I need a break from my family.
So one more question. If you if you're putting it
just to look at the calendar and figure out when we can do that.
If you're putting in for operating funds, how much description of the capital project do you need to put in there? So, for example, we're doing home ownership, housing redevelopment, and we're asking for, the operating side of it. How much info do you need in the narrative about what the actual project is, since that's a separate proposal?
Right. If you're only asking for operating funding, then, I think it's a matter of the leverage sheet on the budget form of making sure that, you're clear about what that is. That would be another funding source. It's not really what you're asking for in that operating CDBG funding, but, you've got $300,000 from the state to actually do the capital. So
Yeah,
I think
also
yeah.
I was going to
So
say
I don't-
also,
Yeah, go ahead, Carol. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Just that enough information on the project that we can determine if it's eligible, because it still would have to be an eligible, like low mod housing. It would still have to be an eligible project that you're requesting operating funding for.
Yep. Anything else? Okay, so feel free to reach out to Tanya. She'll be fielding any calls or emails that are about this application. So if you have a problem or you have a question or something's not working out for you, please let us know. The sooner you do that, the sooner we can help you. And you have roughly 6 weeks to get this done. The application is due on February 5th, which is a Monday, and we'll be shutting down the application around 9 o'clock in the morning. So if you feel like you really want to wait and submit it at midnight on Sunday, that's fine with us. I recommend getting it done Friday, but we're giving you that extra time in case. So let us know if you need some help with it. And keep your eye out. We'll be sending out a couple more emails, particularly about the quarterly reporting function. And if you want to be involved in the code map training, put that down in the chat, and I'll look at the chat and get you an invite to that.
And Susan, looks like one person is asking for an email address. I'm not sure whose email address.
Yeah, so back up here into program overview. They can reach out to me, and mine is just Susan.Moriarty, or they can reach out to Tanya, LaTanyaD.Lewis@BaltimoreCity.gov. Would be the email addresses to use. All right, well.